Hey everybody, and welcome back to FSi DFS. I'm McKinley412. Today we're looking at the main slate on Tuesday. Big variety of pitchers in terms of talent-wise. We got guys like Max Scherzer up at the top, down to Chad Kuhl at the bottom. So far this season, we've seen kind of either like all aces on opening day, or the past 2 days have been kind of like all just can't really get too excited about any of them. So this is kind of like the first true slate where we might get some variety in terms of our pitchers. So before we begin, big shout out to Mega for taking over on Monday. Absolutely crushed it, really hyped up Boston, and then he had 3 home runs from his core guys in the first inning. So absolutely amazing job, especially given how sick he was while doing the video. So but let's get back into what we're here to talk about on this video. Top 5 guys: Scherzer, Bieber, Valdez, Castillo, and Urias in terms of salary. And kind of we have them ranked in this order. Scherzer's obviously the cream of the crop in terms of like strikeout rate. He's got that 30% K rate last season. I think he had 6 Ks in his opening start in Miami while allowing 3 earned runs. Next 3 guys, I feel like you can kind of throw them around however you want. They all have nice matchups. Valdez probably has the best matchup going up against Detroit, but Bieber's going up against Oakland. Castillo's going up against the Angels, who can certainly let up a dud at any point. All 3 of them actually in their opening start did not allow a single earned run. So combined, they went 16 innings pitched, 0 earned runs. So pretty amazing. They're all great options. But jamming in a guy like Scherzer, jamming in a guy like Castillo together, it's going to get kind of pricey. So like if you do a 10-8 guy and then Castillo at 9-5, you're only looking at 3-7 remaining for your bats. You're going to have to find some great value. If you want to do that, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. Urias, I think, is definitely 5th ranked guy in terms of, these top 5 salary guys. Next on the salary is Marquez. I just don't have any interest in him, especially going up against the Dodgers, especially at this price point of 9.1K. Just don't have any interest in him there. So looking down into the mid tier here, you can see that salary drops off pretty quickly. You got 3 guys in the 8K range, and then next thing you know, you're already at 6.9. So in this mid-range, I don't have a whole lot of interest. Suarez is probably my favorite guy. He doesn't have the greatest K rate. I think it was around like 23%. I don't have the notes in front of me exactly. But I remember looking at it, and it wasn't super high. But still, going up against Seattle, 7.3K, like the cheapest of these guys, maybe he's the guy to pick. Heaney had a great strikeout rate last season. It was like 35%, but it was definitely in a limited sample size, just with innings. And he allowed a lot of home runs. He was allowing like 1.9 home runs per 9 innings, which is actually through the roof high. So that was definitely an issue for him last season. He's going to have a tough matchup going against those Baltimore bats. Nick Pivetta, do we trust Nick Pivetta? I don't know if I can trust any Boston pitcher at this point with how many runs they've been giving up in Boston to start the season. Wade Miley, he's a total toss-up, returning from, an injury-plagued season last year. He thought about retiring. Who knows how he's going to do? He's got a tough matchup going up against the Mets. Herman was atrocious in his 4 spring training starts. He's got a tough matchup against Philly. Mats going up against Atlanta. Do we ever really want to play pitchers that aren't like elite cream of the crop guys, or like even them? Like on a big slate, do we really want to be targeting Atlanta with our pitchers? So, I mean, you can pretty much nix this mid tier. I don't have a whole lot of interest in it. If you want to put Heaney above Suarez, I totally get it. Even Suarez, I have him ranked up high, but I'm not going to be playing him realistically. So like I'm definitely sticking with the high tier, and then I'm going to be either throwing in Kikuchi or Dodd, maybe Strom and a few GPPs, but we'll see. So yeah, that mid tier is pretty gross. I just kind of talked about how the matchups are just not good, or they're just in really bad form, or they're just a complete unknown coming back from injury or whatnot. So Kikuchi, he's the guy that I do want to talk about. For Toronto, he had some bullpen stints at the end of last year, but, he was a starter for most of the season. So, he had not great numbers. He had great numbers in the spring, but he had numbers, but better numbers going down the stretch. You can kind of see here, and once he went into that bullpen role, he started to really find his form, did a whole lot better. This spring training, he was lights out. He was amazing. He was one of the better pitchers in all of the majors during spring training. However, you can't take too much stock in spring training. Only you gotta take it with a grain of salt, but still, 6.7K I think is just far too cheap for him, especially going up against Kansas City. And on the other side of the mound is going to be Bubic, who is just really, really bad pitcher. So we're going to be targeting the Toronto bats. Kikuchi could be in line for the win, certainly. So he's definitely my favorite guy down here. Is he a lock by any means? No. He's got some serious command issues, especially with allowing a lot of walks. So there is that concern. So he's not a lock, but he's definitely a guy that can open up salary for you down at the bottom. Dodd, he's going to be pitching for Atlanta. I think this is his first major league game. I was doing a little bit of research on him, couldn't find too much. Really, the one main thing that I did find on Dodd was that he only pitched 6 innings at AAA. Never pitched in the majors, pitched 6 innings at AAA ball, and everything else was single A or double A ball. He had a nice strikeout rate, and like a nice ERA, but again, there is a massive gap between double A ball and going up against the St. Louis team. So not a guy that like I'm recommending with full force and vigor, but he's certainly a guy that maybe if you're going to be playing a couple of GPP lines, you could throw him into your player pool. 5.3K, whatever, but again, tough matchup going up against St. Louis and their hot bats. Last guy is Strom for Philadelphia. He's projected to get 65, 70 pitches. I have it right here. Going up against the Yankees. He's got some decent strikeout stuff for sure. Excuse me. So might have a little bit of interest in him, but if you're only going 60, 65 pitches, especially going up against the Yankees, they might be able to work the count against him. He's not going to be in line for the win. So you can kind of cross that off for him. Maybe only goes like 3-4 innings. So there's some interest there with the strikeout upside, but not too much in the grand scheme of things. Fade, cool. Manning, Bubic, Contreras. I just don't have too much interest in him with his low strikeout rate. Oh, Wells. I got to take Wells off of here. He actually pitched on Monday night. Bradish was pitching for the Orioles. He got injured, so they threw Wells in for long relief. So we actually don't know who the Baltimore start is going to be on Tuesday. So looking towards the bats, many ways you can go. Not as many as Monday night when like every single pitcher was, pretty rough and you had like a stack of like 10 teams that all you could make an argument for as being like the top team. But I do like Tampa Bay, Houston, Toronto. Those are like the big 3. In my opinion, Boston, Atlanta, St. Louis would probably be the next guys that I would have some interest in. But Tampa Bay, one thing I really like about Tampa Bay, not only are they going against Chad Kuhl, who's just not a great pitcher. I mean, he's obviously better than me, so I can't say too much, but still, in terms of a major league pitcher, he does struggle from time to time. But another great thing that I do love about Tampa Bay, and I found it happening a lot in my Monday night builds, was that they have the second base and the shortstop eligibility in part of like their main stacks. Now, Lowe, I think he's just far too cheap for a guy who could be leading off on a nice lefty-righty matchup and only 3.4K. Like, there's one value that you could be looking at in terms of your builds. Wander Franco, 4.9K. He's also going to be a staple in a lot of your Tampa Bay stacks, or should be a staple in your Tampa Bay stacks. And Tampa Bay, they've hit quite a few home runs here so far this season. Luke Raley, he had 2 home runs on Monday night at 2.3K. So he was definitely nice in some of those mini stacks that we were putting together, just because we were looking for that second base shortstop eligibility. But again, if he's in, he could be another nice value play that you could get at just 2.3K. Tampa Bay, they can hit home runs, but they also play that small ball. They love to steal bases, get on the base pass, and with stolen bases like 3 times as frequent so far this season, they're going to be a huge part of DFS. So Lowe, Franco, maybe even Raley, throw those guys in there. Then you can possibly get up to a guy like Scherzer and pair him with another top guy like Valdez up there. So I think Tampa Bay is definitely my favorite stack on, well, maybe not my favorite stack. They're kind of clumped with Houston and with Toronto. Houston's got a great matchup going up against Matt Manning. Manning is a reverse splits pitcher, so he throws right, but right-handed batters have hit better off of him historically. But either way, it's not like I'm saying fade Alvarez. Like, definitely jamming him in your lineups. He still mashes right-handed pitching. So either way, I'd love Houston. And honestly, they're not that expensive like they are, but if you incorporate some of like the bottom of the order kind of guys like Maldonado or Hensley, Dubon was in the lineup here, like those are all in the 2K. So if you do like a larger Houston stack and maybe you want to do like the bottom of the order and wrap it around the 8 9 1 2 3 hitters or whatever, you can definitely get some affordable guys in that regard. But Houston, I think they're in a great smash spot, especially going up against Manning. And the other team that I do have a lot of interest in is Toronto, going up against Bubic, who has just had an atrocious season last year. Let me pull up his stats real quick. 5.58 ERA, 3-13 win loss, 1.7 WHIP. That is up there. So definitely have a lot of interest in Toronto. And one other great thing about Toronto is they have some value to them. Only 3 guys above 4.1K. And then it drops pretty quickly after that into some affordable guys down here. So I do see wind is in the forecast for Kansas City. I don't know if it's winds out or winds in. Obviously, pay attention to weather as you get closer. But like if the winds are going to be strong and blowing out, going to have a whole lot more interest in Toronto moving forward. So I do think that those 3 teams are definitely like 3, or at least my 3 teams I definitely want to be having a lot of exposure to. Boston, they've been hitting lights out. They've been doing great so far, and same with Atlanta. Nice matchups, solid offenses so far this season, so let's keep it going. St. Louis, they're probably my favorite GPP play, going up against Dylan Dodd and Atlanta. Again, we don't know much about Dodd. He's posted some great numbers in the minors, but this is going to be a big step up for him. And with how well St. Louis has been hitting, I do think that they can certainly get to him, obviously, but there's just a great offense. Again, wins possibly blowing out, possibly blowing in. It's going to make a big difference. So like these sheets are not final. Like we edit them, especially as like lineups come out, they change, stacks can go down, they can go up. But yeah, so St. Louis I think is definitely my favorite GPP play, especially because, they're fairly expensive. As a whole team, they're expensive. I know other teams that I listed, they had 5 guys above 4K as well, but then it dropped off to the 2Ks real quick. But I mean, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guys at 3.6 or more. So they're expensive. It's gonna be tough to jam 2 stud pitchers with them, and that's why they're where they're at. New York Mets going up against Miley. They're another GPP team, just with how pricey they are as a team, and Miley's a big unknown. Really don't know what's going to happen with him. I was reading an article again. I read articles before these videos, just doing some research. He was contemplating retirement. Didn't know if he was even going to be back. He had the injury-plagued season all of last season. So it's been rough for him. It's been a rough road. So they might get to that Milwaukee bullpen pretty quickly. So the New York Mets GPP play. Philadelphia, I think they're going up against the Yankees. Yeah, Philadelphia going up against Herman. Herman, like I mentioned earlier, had just an atrocious spring. He's not that bad of a pitcher, but he did not do very well during the spring training. So Philadelphia, maybe they get to him. But again, take spring training with a grain of salt. You can kind of see where I'm at with the rest of the stacks here. But yeah, so that kind of like wraps up the slate. I do think I'm going to be spending a lot of my salary paying up for the pitchers here because I don't have a lot of interest in the low guys or the medium tier outside of Kikuchi. And Dodd and Strom are just kind of like the GPP guys, but like I can tolerate them for sure. In terms of stacks, I just gave you my top 3: Tampa Bay, Houston, Toronto, and I think there's a gap. But I can certainly listen to an argument that says St. Louis, Boston, Atlanta are definitely a top stack. I can totally listen to that. No problem. But hopefully this was helpful. Hopefully it just kind of directs you in the right path. come join us. If you have questions, if you want to, join our Discord group, Mega Roller and I are constantly in the Discord answering questions that you guys might have, providing up to the minute, edits or changes that we have to the sheet. You can see it all there. So pretty affordable. Links down in the description below. Please thumbs up, like, subscribe. We really do appreciate it. It definitely does help us out in producing more of this content for you guys. So as always, thanks for watching. Good luck in your contests, and we will see you in the next video.